Salutations everybody, it is Maddie here today. I hope you're all doing fantastic, and I am in a Fallout mood this week, so naturally prepare yourselves for the ensuing Fallout content. With that in mind, let's begin the conversation talking about Fallout 76's Wastelanders. What does this expansion have to nail in order for Bethesda to get this game back on track? I personally view Wastelanders as the reset button for 76 and Bethesda's only window for them to get players back into the game and get involved with Fallout once more. Because a lot of what Wastelanders has turned into is exactly what people wanted way back at launch. So now that we're finally here, let's talk about a couple of things that Bethesda has to get right, and I encourage you to share your ideas in the comments down below. Yeah, Bethesda, I'm gonna need this one to work, and I mean like bug-free work. It needs to function properly. We would really appreciate that. Naturally, you do want to factor in that it is Bethesda, and they do have a tendency to launch buggy games, but I do want to say this in all fairness, they delayed this expansion out of the holiday window into April, which was much later than I think a lot of us had expected, at least me personally. And then on top of that, they've been testing it in the PTS for a number of weeks now, so they've been getting a lot of kinks out. I do have faith that Bethesda can actually have a relatively bug-free launch, something that doesn't seem to happen with 76 all that often when it comes to its patches. It always seems to introduce more problems to the table that they have to fix in the next patch. The only one that I can think of that came out pretty smooth was actually Fallout 76's Nuclear Winter, and guess what? That received a substantial amount of testing. So that's sort of what is backing up my thoughts on Wastelanders possibly coming out in a stable fashion. But the reason they need it to come out in a stable fashion is not only because we want to play it, of course, but also for the new fans who may want to hop in, or the returning fans who are interested. If they see it's a shit show again, they're going to be like, I'm good. I got other stuff to play. You know, this period of time between March and April, very busy for gamers, especially with some of us having more free time. We have plenty of other places to go. When I think of these live service games that develop over time and have tons of expansions and new content constantly being added, an evolving world, if you will, I think that's part of the reason why we play these games. Even if what's in the moment isn't super amazing or fun, it's just another piece of that roadmap. And one thing that 76 has severely lacked outside of Wild Appalachia was a roadmap, a foreseeable future, because most people have been waiting for the wheels to fall off once again and for Bethesda to completely shut down Fallout 76. And while 76 is not that great, I think folks forget that it did end up selling pretty decently in its launch year, and there is a pretty dedicated fan base for 76. So what this game really needs is, if Wastelanders is even remotely decent, is a foreseeable future for people to say, you know what, this is good enough for me to pay attention, to hop on the ride, and join in whatever Wastelanders is going to turn into. If Wastelanders provides a good main quest line, some nice side quests, good NPCs to interact with, then at that point in time, I think a lot of people will be like, this is the type of Fallout 76 I wanted. I'm curious to see what Bethesda does next. This patch may not be for me, this expansion may not be for me, but I'm curious to see what Bethesda brings to the table later on. A roadmap, a vision that consumers can understand. All of this is very important for Fallout 76's Wastelanders, because it's not only about now and getting this expansion right. Bethesda doesn't really have time to breathe here. Once this expansion's out, people can instantly get distracted. There's so many good releases coming out right now and in the foreseeable future. So if they got people gripped, they need to get a roadmap out ASAP. Choice and consequence is one of the elements that has always defined Fallout for me. Whatever quest you can think of, from Fallout 1, 2, 3, New Vegas, choice has always been empowering in those games. 76's Wastelanders looks to establish the whole dialogue system, lots of lore to dive into, and having you decide between two factions here. And there's a reputation system to reflect the decisions you make and how communities respond to you. Now, I'm not ultra confident in Bethesda's ability to create diverse choice and consequence in an online environment. Let's just take a look at this quote here to fully understand why. This comes from Bethesda's Inside the Vault series a couple of weeks ago. I did cover this originally, so it may be familiar to some of you. As you dig in the Wastelanders, you'll encounter two different factions that you can side with, the Settlers and the Raiders, though Gardner says you don't have to choose one or the other for most of the game, giving you the chance to experience both the Settler story and the Raiders story, which I think is okay. You can kind of go down both these quest lines to a point, Baldwin adds. You will eventually have to make a decision, but you can go far enough with both sides before that point that you get a sense of who these people are, so you're making an informed choice. Whoever you end up siding with, it's not like you can't be friends with the other side. We have a reputation system. It's just that the side you do choose to help, you'll get a huge bump in your relationship with them. Now, we don't know the ins and outs, the inside baseball on what happens when you side with one over the other. Do you get more Raider-specific rewards and access to Raider stores, which offer specific, unique Raider gear? Same thing with the Settlers. Does it apply there? Or is it just, hey, this side likes you a little bit more, but you can do side quests now for some of the Raiders who are friendly towards you and then even out your relationships with both sides? Like, that would be kind of stupid, right? Imagine you completely screw over the Raiders and side with the Settlers, and then you play another like 10 hours of the game and you end up being able to be friends with the Raiders as much as you are with the Settlers based off the reputation system. That's the kind of stuff that I think will be a little baffling with Fallout 76. Essentially, it just evolves into more content, which Bethesda probably isn't too upset with. But what I want to really see is real choice here. You know, if I side with the Raiders, I want the Settlers to shoot me on sight. Like, I want the consequences to be that drastic in the world, to be that evolving. But when you think about it, in this online space, let's say my friend chooses to side with the Settlers, I choose to side with the Raiders, we're questing together, I go into a place where the Settlers are supposed to attack me, they're not going to attack my friend, or how would that actually work? This is where the online space completely complicates the choices that Bethesda could have at their fingertips with this game. And it's why inherently people are just sitting there waiting for Starfield, and I totally understand why, because certain things that have defined this franchise just aren't as impactful as they possibly could be. So along with that sense of identity, which I think Wastelanders does seek to restore into Fallout 76, questing is the next important part. Now, we talked about choice, but going on quests in Fallout is what it's all about. And I felt like in 76, there were just menial events that you were always encouraged to do in a multiplayer environment. There wasn't really anything interesting because all of it was told through audio or text logs. Now that I have the opportunity to talk to people, I would love to see a ton of side quests peppered around the map. And I'm not talking hundreds and hundreds, because I know realistically they are making a whole new main story. They're creating what I believe is a framework for the future here with Wastelanders. And so because of that, I don't know how much side content will be populated throughout the map involving Wastelanders, but I really do hope that they include a substantial amount of side quests that involve me working with other people and not just listening to audio logs, because man, oh man, did they take the BioShock formula and run 40 yards with it. It is insane. I don't know why I picked 40 yards. Okay, let's just move on. But this is Wastelanders, right? And the idea of Wastelanders is to restore the Fallout in Fallout 76. So I don't want to see 1,000,001 new multiplayer events. I know at the heart of it all, 76 is a multiplayer game. That's part of its identity. You need to satiate that part of the identity, not because that's what people want, but that's because this is what the product is. But at the same time, I would love to see a real focus on establishing these quests and making them as important as the multiplayer events, because they have good resources at their hands. They have the ability to create something really fun and special for people, like a true bounce back story, and they could drop the ball if they just say, here's some events, go escort this Brahmin, go help this trader out, something along those lines. Yeah, so companions are obviously really important in Fallout. Some of our favorite characters have come from companions in various Fallout games. I personally think that New Vegas and Fallout 4 have the best companions. That's just me. But anyway, I really want the companions in Wastelanders to stick. Now, they've mentioned that they're called allies, and there are some minor allies which don't really have a story, and they'll sort of just chill at your camp one-on-one. But if I'm forced into that one-on-one experience, right, because Bethesda said you can't have like 1,000,000 people populating your camp. So if I'm forced to stick with one companion of two, which one will obviously be a settler, one will be a raider, then I really, really, really hope Bethesda put a lot of focus, time, and effort into making them interesting, compelling, and not just a combat buddy, right? Because while I liked Fallout 4's companions, I think of Old Longfellow in Far Harbor. He felt very vague, thoughtless, and he was just a combat buddy, a new combat buddy who would just make some experiences a little bit easier when you were shooting it up. And I don't really like that personally. I want the companion to feel like a friend, a true buddy exploring the wastelands with me. And I think that's important because a lot of people hopping into 76 may not have friends who play it. So you need to make sure that the companions work for those people, because it might be the only person they're traveling the wastelands with. And if they're annoying or they suck or they're just not interesting flat out, then that can really harm the experience for new players. So with that all in mind, ladies and gentlemen, those are 5 things that came to mind that I think Bethesda needs to nail when it comes to Wastelanders in order for this game to start bouncing back. Because what they have here is something that can be great for the game's life. They just need to nail it here at launch. There can't be any slip-ups whatsoever. So I leave it in your hands. What do you think Bethesda needs to get right with 76? Let me know in the comments down below. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Big thank you to all the patrons who are supporting this content variety during this tough time. I really appreciate it. And I'll talk with all of you soon. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.